Hello and welcome to Circuit Stream's Pitch Day event. Today we are celebrating two cohorts from our game development and game design boot camps, which both commenced in October 2023. Now, before we get started, can everybody hear and see me okay? Just let me know where you're joining us from so I know that you can hear and see me okay. All right. New York, Indiana, welcome. Los Angeles, Calgary, Abu Dhabi, welcome Zain. Vancouver, Canada, Toronto. All right, awesome. Welcome everybody. Now, I'll begin with a few housekeeping issues. Please feel free to chat using the messaging function on the bottom right hand of the screen. If you have any questions for our presenters today, please post your questions on the questions tab that's right next to the chat tab. At the end of each presentation, we will have about 2 minutes for a live Q&A session where you can offer any feedback or ask the presenters questions around their projects. Please post any questions that you have for our presenters in the questions area, and these will be addressed at the end of each presentation. All right, and my name is Wanai Mashingise, and I'm the Student Outcomes Manager at Circuit Stream. I'm passionate about helping students achieve their goals and launch successful careers in emerging technologies. Taking a look at the schedule for today's event, we are going to introduce Circuit Stream and kick off the event. That should take about 10 to 15 minutes. Then we're going to go ahead and pass the mic over to the other partners from different studios and associations to introduce themselves and provide a little bit of support for the students. Following that, we are going to get into the bulk of the presentation today, which is the graduate pitches, and this should take about 95 minutes or so. At the very end, we'll do a quick wrap up of the event and provide some more information on how you can connect with us after the event. Now, Circuit Stream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators, and we're now a leading provider of technology learning in game development and design, AR, VR, UX design, product management, and software development. We partner with industry-leading companies and leading educational institutions to offer courses and training to those looking to learn more about emerging technologies. Here's a snapshot of our current university partners. A few learners you'll see present today join us from institutions such as University of British Columbia and University of Toronto. Our Game Development Bootcamp is a 30-week intensive live online bootcamp designed to help launch the development careers of new talent. And to that end, what really sets us apart from our other courses is that it is a career track with a dedicated career program that runs parallel to the technical program. Upon successful completion, learners are Circuit Stream certified game developers and of all the hard and soft skills required to launch a successful career in Unity 3D development. For our game design bootcamp, over the course of 30 weeks, they acquire the skills to analyze game design elements, conceive gameplay concepts, design game mechanics with various tools, create functioning game prototypes, and test novel gameplay concepts. They also learn about the role of game designer, its various specializations, and how they fit into video game production. Learners today are presenting their capstone projects. They were provided with a set of requirements with the goal of creating a minimum viable product. Within the span of 4 weeks, they were able to create a project that was of personal interest for them, and they could choose to work solo or with others. Which brings us to today's event. Today we have 23 graduates presenting. All of them are seeking employment. We will see a total of 11 presentations, 4 solo presenters, and 7 groups or pairs. Now I'm going to touch on our talent network a little bit here before we invite our first industry partner to speak. We are committed to supporting our alumni with their careers and personal development, and we take responsibility in connecting learners with industry partners and networks. For employers in the audience, if you want to join our talent network, you can gain first access to our global alumni and talent, exclusive invites to connect with our career-ready graduates, assistance from the Circuit Stream team to source talent, presentations to our talent network, ability to post and search for roles within our community, as well as features at events on website and materials. This is a snapshot of some of our partners. This list was chosen specifically from our overall list, as we have representatives from some of these companies today. And now, a word from a few of our industry partners. So first up, I'm going to call up on stage Pablo de la Hoya from Niantic. All right, so Pablo, if you are if you're in the audience.
Yes, hi, how's it going?
Great, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to join. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'd love to give you all a quick background on myself, and then if it's okay with you, I'd like to showcase a quick 50-second video of the new Niantic Studio that's accessible on 8Ball for free for everyone.
Take it away, Pablo.
Sure, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Pablo de la Hoya. I'm the community manager here at Niantic for the 8Ball developer community, meaning I work with developers hand in hand to help them with creating experiences using the 8Ball Cloud Editor and now the new Niantic Studio, which is really exciting. It's a low-code visual editor and also is free to use moving forward. So an exciting new launch that we had this last week, actually, at AWE. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly show you all a video showcasing that, and then that'll be it for me, for my introduction. All right, here we go. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. Not sure if audio will come through, but there we go. So yeah, that is a sizzle reel, which the music is now engraved in my head from hearing it and seeing it all of last week. But yeah, that is our new Niantic Studio. It's free to access, and some of you may see that and think it looks familiar to Unity. That is exactly the point. It's a visual editor that we're really excited about to build and launch web XR experiences.
Awesome, that is very cool. Thank you so much, Pablo. Mm-hmm. All right, so up next, we have Eric Kilkenny from Game Breaking Studios. Oh, Sorry. Hi, Eric.
Hi.
All right, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. So great to be here. I'm excited to see. The work from everybody who's been participating in these programs. I'll tell you a bit about Game Breaking. We're basically a co-dev studio, and we work with some pretty big clients like Riot, Blizzard, and then a lot of indie studios doing everything from full service game dev, helping with the design, the art, the quality assurance. But then we also do back-end services and helping them with their engines or their CI pipelines. So we do a lot of really cool stuff. And one of the things that I think defines us is we're sort of a small outfit that is without investment. So we do everything kind of bootstrapped. And, we try to keep ourselves very autonomous. So we want to end up becoming a studio that's making our own games from scratch. We're doing it sort of the slow and steady way of accumulating money through our co-dev work. That's kind of everything about us that I think is super important. I'm excited to see all the work that comes through here.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. Okay, and up next, we have Leo Andrade, and Leo is the founder of Lazy Lion Games. Hi, Leo.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here for another pitch day. I say another because I also graduated for this program. So I wanted to start off just quickly congratulating everyone because, I've been through it. I know it's hard and I know it's intense. And I know you all did put in a lot of work. So congratulations on getting to this point. You all earned it. You all deserve to be here. And good luck on your presentations. I'm very much looking forward to it. Recently, this year, I founded Lazy Lion Games. It's a game studio that I started.
Oh, we just lost your audio, Leo. I think you just muted yourself. You're on mute.
Can you hear me? I'm so sorry about that. I think my audio is having an issue today, but it's probably different and it's worse audio, but it doesn't matter. I founded Lazy Lion this year with the goal of making games that are just as enjoyable to watch as they are to play. I used to be a streamer, and I know how much that community supports gaming. So the indie studio really has that vision of creating games, and we really break them down. And we want to create games that are just as enjoyable to watch as they are to play. So we're always looking to bring people in to the
team, and I'm very much looking forward to see what you guys present. So best of luck. It's great to be here. Thank you, Circuit Stream, and that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Leo. All right, and up next we have Mikael Zerihoun. Mikael is co-founder and lead programmer at Caldera Interactive.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Mikael. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, of course. I wanted to start off by congratulating finishing this program. I had no idea how short of a time frame you had. So that's a massive achievement. That's a lot done in a very short amount of time. So really pat yourself on the back for that. As what I mentioned, my name is Mikael Zerihoun, and I'm one of the co-founders at Caldera Interactive. We're a studio based out of Edmonton with a team of 4, and we're working on our first commercial title, The Rabbit Hole, for which we've been pushed for it. We've been showcasing it around. We've been around for a couple of years, very much still a new indie shop. And yeah, I look forward to hearing all of your pitches and answering any questions you might have for me. But yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. And one fun fact about Caldera Interactive is that they were the winning pitch at the recent GDC. Congratulations on winning the pitch competitions, Mikhail.
Thank you. A lot of practice and a lot of help from peers. But yes, thank you very much.
All right. Okay, thanks, Mikhail. And lastly, I will call up Colton, who is the co-founder of Studio Monsoon. Welcome to the stage, Colton. All right. I'm not sure if Colton has joined us this afternoon. I'm just going to check. But in the meantime, I will be moving on. And then if he is here, we can move back to having Colton on stage. All right, without further ado, let's begin the pitch sessions. And Colton, if you can hear me, please let me know in the chat, and then we can circle back to you. Otherwise, we will get started with today's pitches. Reminder to please share your comments in the chat. And if you have a specific question for any of our presenters, please post it in the question area next to the chat. Good luck to all the presenters. And up first, we have After the End, presented by Brian, Chris, and Evan.
Hello.
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 Hello, hello. I am going to leave the stage.
Perfect. Thank you, Wonai. Thank you all for coming to our presentation. I'm Brian, and my teammates Chris and Evan created the game After the End, and we can't wait to show it to you all. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, my name is Brian Hickson Simmerall, and I'm looking for jobs, internships, and collaboration as a game dev. I have 5 years of experience as a software engineer, and while I love the technical challenges posed by the job, I've been craving the creative collaboration of the gaming industry. I was responsible for the enemy AI and states and the player movement system in After the End.
And I'm Chris Ye, who loves game a lot. With a background as a software and Excel developer, I'm currently working part-time on a few game projects, but I'm also looking for internship or any job opportunities. I'm also the game developer of After the End, responsible for the player state, combat system, and sound.
And I'm Evan Roberts. I'm also a game developer on After the End, and I'm also looking for jobs or internship opportunities. I just recently finished my degree in English and Sociology, and I decided to move into creating games because it's a medium that I've found that really lets me be creative and make experiences that are both engaging and impactful. On After the End, I worked on the UI and map system, the boss fight AI and cutscenes, and the level design. Next slide, please.
So when we started work on After the End, we knew we wanted it to be a 2D action platformer. We knew that we wanted it to have Metroidvania elements. However, when we were thinking about how we wanted the game to feel, we started to think about what we've been loving about games recently. Games that can give the player a feeling of skill expression through their movement, such as Destiny and Dishonored 2, are just so fun. We decided that we wanted to make the movement and the combat a core focus for us. We wanted the player to feel like they were able to challenge the obstacles of the game in their own way through the movement of their character. Next slide, please.
In After the End, we focus a lot on the player control experience. The first feature is fluid movement. The player can learn different movement mechanics to control the character. Apart from running and jumping, the player can also dodge roll to pass enemies or air stall to slow down in the air. With different combination of moves, the player can even reach some part of the map only with some specific combos, giving them the freedom to explore the world. The second feature is intelligent enemy AI. When enemies detect the player, they will chase and attack using various moves within their attack range. Our boss characters have even more attack moves and decision-making capabilities, requiring the player to observe carefully and decide on their counteraction.
Our game features a combat system which lets players string together attacks, block incoming damage, and perform a dodge roll that temporarily renders the player invulnerable, giving the player a variety of ways to both enter and exit combat. We wanted to make sure the combat was dynamic and interesting, but most importantly, fun to experiment with. Our checkpoints and saving makes use of the player pref system that's built into Unity to save the current game state of specific game objects and booleans upon colliding with the checkpoint trigger. And then these states are reloaded when you respawn after the player dies. Next slide, please. So this is our timeline. In the first 2 weeks of the development timeline, we concentrated on laying a solid foundation for our project. We did brainstorming sessions to define objectives and establish a clear roadmap. We set up project boards that helped us track milestones effectively, and we also created a Discord channel to ensure that we were always communicating. And additionally, we implemented weekly retrospectives to reflect on our progress, address challenges, and assure that we were all on the same page. In our third week, this is where we really started to get into working on Unity and build the game mechanics that would act as the foundation for the direction we wanted to take the game. We knew that in the coming weeks, a lot of this would be important, so we put a lot of focus early on here. Next slide, please. So these next 2 weeks saw us creating all of the mechanics that would influence the moment-to-moment gameplay for the player, really building up the bulk of what would end up being the game loop. Things like our combat system, the state-controlled enemy AI, and our boss fight. And we also spent a lot of this time adding variety to our pre-existing mechanics. We wanted to give the player opportunities to use the different movement types and encounter different enemies. By week 6, we were working on polishing the game. Anything we added here was mainly quality of life changes, such as the checkpoints and the options menu. And we wanted to make sure there was a clear beginning and end to our demo. Up next, here's a trailer for our game. Next slide, please. So while working on the game, we ran into a number of challenges, and we really wanted to make sure that we could work together as a team to address these challenges early on, so they wouldn't cause roadblocks as we continued to work on the project. So here are some of the larger challenges that we faced while working on it. Next slide, please.
One of the major challenges I faced when developing After the End was how to create a reactive AI that would give the player an opportunity to learn and improve. To achieve this, we chose the state-based design pattern. The pattern lets us define distinct states for our enemies, such as chasing, patrolling, and attacking, each with its own rules for activation, which can be programmed in a modular fashion. This makes the AI's behavior learnable for the player while also being easy to manage for us. However, one of the major challenges with state-based design is managing the state transitions to ensure they're smooth and contextually appropriate. As the number of states increases, the complexity of the state machine grows a lot, making it difficult to manage all potential transitions and edge cases. For example, a player may enter an enemy chase area, but if the enemy is in their death state, we don't want them getting up and walking around or sliding after the player. This challenge was particularly noticeable with our player movement, where having too many states made it difficult to identify the correct context for each potential transition. Next slide, please.
The second main challenges we face is adding more logic to the player controller. It's difficult to control the behavior because of the extensive logic within the player. You can see that in the UML diagram before, the player controller was overloaded with responsibilities. handling both player input and physics in a single class. This approach makes it difficult to add new player moves, especially those requiring unique customizations. You can see that in the UML diagram after, we refactor the code by separating the player input and physics logic into different classes, and assigning various states to the player using the state design pattern. Each player move is now independent, such as indicating that the player cannot jump while in the air state. So when the player tries to jump in the air, the controller already knows it cannot based on the current state. Also, we've rearranged the animation states diagram to achieve a more organized setup. We found that combining Unity's animation states with the states design pattern was highly beneficial, allowing the player controller to transition between states based on its current animation. We are very glad that we put this effort into refactoring the code because it has saved us a lot of time for future implementations. Next slide, please.
So finally, we were left with the question, where do we go next? When we started working on the project, we created a number of stretch goals for ourselves, things that we knew we might not have time to finish now, but we wanted to try and tackle later. And we also had our friends play the game and provide feedback for us. So in the future, we hope to continue working on these stretch goals, but also addressing the feedback we were given to make the game the best it could be. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for listening to our presentation. If you would like to get into contact with Brian, Chris, or myself, Evan, here's the contact information. And also, this will be available in the graduate profile book later. And give After the End a try if you'd like. We'd really love people to play it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I will now invite any questions from our industry partners and the audience. Remember to put up the questions in the question area.
Diana is asking, which aspect of the project are you most proud of and why? I think it sort of makes sense to go over, each of us probably have our own thing. I think the player movement was really key for me because I was coming into it hoping to make sort of like being inspired by Hollow Knight and Destiny, having really quick reflexive movement that really allows you to feel like you have full control of your character and that you're playing the game in a different way than someone else does. And being able to sort of make the movement feel really smooth was really important to me. So the way that we got the movement feeling is probably what I'm most proud of.
I think for me, coming into this project, having not as much experience doing coding, I think the boss fight that I worked on, I felt very proud of when we were able to get it working. It was a lot. There were a lot of parts of it that were pretty new to me when it came to working on how it was going to work in the project. But I feel like the experience I got during the course really helped with that, and I was really happy with how it turned out.
And for me, I think we did a very good job on planning of the projects because we are having a very good communication in the Discord channel to review our projects and to discuss any challenges we face. Like the most difficult thing is really about the player controller. Just I have mentioned, it really saved us really a lot of time to tackle each problem one by one, and the project goes very smoothly.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Pablo asks, what, if any, was your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it? I know Chris and I both were able to talk a little bit about some of the challenges we faced. Evan, did you have anything that you thought was a significant challenge for you?
Honestly, I think one of the bigger challenges that happened early, but I think we did a good job at making sure it didn't come up as much later, is we had a lot of ideas for what we wanted to add into the game, and we started each working on our own thing, but then trying to figure out how to get all of those to connect. Like, how does this game feature become relevant in regards to all the other game features? And I think as we started to communicate more and work on the game at the same time, I think it made it a lot easier to be like, we can cut a little bit of how this works and slot it into this next part. And now everything's kind of working together a little better.
Right. Like how you were working on the map system and how I was working on movement and Chris was working on combat. Yeah. How we sort of collaborated to get those all meshing together really well. I think that was a big challenge, but the communication, just spending time working through it together was you're able to get over that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Chris?
Yeah, it's really interesting that we have already collaborated before, but because we are the game jam winner in Circuit Stream as well, but that time we really don't having a very good planning because the game jam is just 1 week. But this time we have a lot more time, so I think we really did a good job on organizing our stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
And Mauricio asks, what's the next stage of the project? Will you continue working on it? I think we haven't talked too much about how much more work we want to do on it. I think all of us are interested in, I guess I shouldn't speak for you guys. I am interested in at least going over the feedback that we've gotten from some of the people that played it, fixing some bugs. I really want to redo the opening level to really make use of our movement system more. But how do you guys feel?
I think the feedback for sure for me, like I had maybe 5 or 6 friends play it, and they all kind of had similar feedback about what they think would make the game better. And I saw everything they said. I was like, no, I totally see what you're talking about there. So I think that's something I'd want to go back and work on. So at least what we have now is the best it can be.
Yeah, we could keep on
right.
working on.
I'm gonna cut in. Sorry, folk. For the sake of time, what I'll have us do is you can answer the remaining questions in the question tab, so that we have enough time to cover everybody's presentations this afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Wonai.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Amazing. So to get in touch with Brian, Evan, and Chris, their contact information, their LinkedIn information has been put in the chat. All right, so up next, we have Sponge Adventure.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, there we go.
Thanks very much. Should we just go, or I wasn't sure if you were leaving the stage? Or...
No, just give me a minute. I don't know why you stopped sharing on my end, but you can go ahead and start introducing yourselves.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My partner and I are here to present our game, Sponge Adventure. Next slide. My name is Kevin Castellani. I'm a Unity game developer with some freelance QA experience. I'm looking for any entry-level positions in QA, development, or production.
So hi everyone, I'm Xinlu Chen, and also can call me Lucy. I graduated last year, October, with a computer science degree. And now I'm looking for any entry-level jobs in Canada or remote worldwide. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So our inspiration coming from a Japanese show, which is called Brain Wall. So the player needs to go through the wall by that shape. And so we decide to use the theme of endless runner games. So we search about the runner games, and the Subway Surfers come to us. So it has 3 lanes and coins and obstacles and such. Next slide, please.
So as Lucy said, starting with those inspirations, we built an endless runner game where you have to avoid obstacles while also managing mechanics like a constantly growing character, shape-shifting, and powering up to break through walls. Next slide. So originally our assignment was to deliver a working MVP in 1 month time. That deadline was eventually extended 2 weeks. And as you may know, pitch day was also delayed 2 weeks. Even given that extra time, Lucy and I made the conscious decision to stick to the 1 month deadline because a lot of our decisions we made about the game were using that original deadline. And we wanted to show that we could effectively plan and deliver our project in the amount of time we were given. And I think we did that. Next slide.
Oh, watch out! Time for shape-shifting. Let's break the wall. Eat burger and be strong. gonna explode. Saltback may help. Are you ready for the SpongeBob adventure? Available now on Windows. Get ready for an ocean of fun. Okay, so we divide 1 month into 4 sprints. Each sprint is 1 week. So the first sprint, we are focusing on creating a GDD and some research on the Infinite Game Runner, because it's the first time to do the Infinite Runner game for 2 of us. So there are 3 approaches to the Infinite Runner. One is moving terrain, not player. The second one is move player, but not terrain. And third one is move player, both player and terrain. But there's some disadvantage for the first one. Because if you only move terrain, there's some performance waste, because if the environment has a lot of assets, they are all moving together and there may have some potential bugs there. And second, when only moving player, it will cause a float point precision error, because the player will move further and further away from the original point 000. So it will cause Unity some bugs, because the position number is larger and larger. The third approach is move both player and terrain, but it's hard to implement because we are first doing this. We need to consider like how far is the farthest distance and how to transfer a player from the farthest distance to the original point. So we decide to choose only moving the player in our game. And also we create the shader graph for curvature design so that in the environment looks infinite. The second sprint, we do some pieces separately, like the UI, the pickup, the animation of the player. And the third sprint, we finally deal with the player health system and the death situation when the player original have 3 lives, and if they hit the obstacles, 1 life will be lost. And also, if the player didn't get enough the salts, they will explode as well. And also, we design the difficulties by speed up the environment speed, and also trying to change the obstacle appearance. It will be more obstacles when the time go by, and also the scaling speed of the player. So the fourth sprint is we do the menu thing. I try to do it interactive, not just a button, pressing the buttons. So it looks very different in our game. And also we design some tutorial UI in the menu as well, and add all the sound effects in our game. And also we gather the feedback from the Discord, the friends, the classmates, to like modify our games by the feedback. So you guys can check our more detailed development log in our itch. Thank you. Next slide.
So for challenges and takeaways, you'll notice from our inspiration, we wanted to originally have a hole in the wall to have the meshes fit through, but we ran into some like weird problems with them not being models that we made ourselves and stuff. Specifically SpongeBob and Patrick would fit through the same holes in the walls, and it was more complicated than we wanted to deal with in our original timeline. So we went with something a little simpler. And then probably the biggest thing we can touch on here is our procedural generation. We maybe hit like level 2 or level 3 of difficulty in procedural generation compared to its like endless possibilities. But essentially we are just generating and deleting new chunks of road using a queue. And then we built an algorithm that is filling those chunks with our pickups and obstacles. It turned out surprisingly well and very balanced. We haven't run into any scenarios where it is a forced game over. Next slide.
So as I said, in Sprint 4, we get some feedback. The most common feedbacks are showing here, which is the power-up of the hamburger is before the feedback, it's on the corner of the screen, and it's hard to click by the player because they are focusing on the middle of the screen. So we try to make a keybind for that power-up. And the second one is instruction. some players is not very familiar of our mechanism, so we try to make the instructions more clear for them. And the third one is we haven't tested. There's a bug when the player go to some bigger size. The collision occurs for the player and some pickup items from another lanes. So we fix that as well. And our next step is to make our menu more clear, because my menu, like my design of the menu is interactive menu. So player may not be aware of what that is for, like the play button and such. So I will make that more clear for the player. And also we need to smooth out the movement because it's kind of junky for some players' feedback. Next slide, please.
Thank you all for taking the time out of your days to listen to our presentation. I think us and everybody else here worked really hard over the last 8 months, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Now we'll get into your quick Q&A session.
Let's see. So I guess starting from the top, how did your knowledge and skills evolve as a result of working on this project? Wow. I think, yeah, we had to learn a lot, right? So as Lucy said, we haven't worked on an endless runner at all together. The original idea was just something that I thought about and that it seemed like we could do in a month's time, like even though I'm working full time and things like that, like it seemed very doable. Yeah, procedure. So learning about procedural generation in the first place was a big thing. And then also just fitting all of the pieces together into that was very complicated. Lucy, anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah, we just learned when we working on this project, because firstly we just focusing on the only one person playing our game, not multiplayer, and we think the Infinite Runner game will be simpler, but it's not. Yeah, like it's hard to design the like how everything is showing up in each chunk, like the pickup and the wall. How do we like manage that? It's kind of hard of designing.
All right.
I think that's the only one I see. Yeah.
All right. If there's any other questions in the chat, in the questions section, Kevin and Chinmu, you can answer them directly on the tab. Thank you so much. Now up next, we have Life OS presented by Sean Sada.
Hi all, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna leave the stage now.
Sounds good. All right, everyone, thank you for coming today. We're gonna switch it up a little bit to a little bit more augmented reality, but today I'm presenting Life OS Spaces. And this is a operating system for workspaces and kind of life spaces as well. But yeah, on the next slide, I'll introduce myself. I'm Sean Sada. I'm based out of the US, and I'm interested in career opportunities, collaborators, and honestly, any conversations around XR. For the past 7 years, I've been in the startup and open source scene, and I've managed dynamic teams with very limited resources, so kind of work well in that space. But yeah, if we go to the next slide, I can introduce kind of the problem that I'm focused in on. So we see that technology and modern interfaces, you can press play, there you go, tend to be very attention seeking. And in this kind of future where we have a phone strapped to our head in augmented reality, it can be very overwhelming. In fact, it gives us a lack of agency in choosing how we want to live our lives, and it robs us of our own agency. So with this kind of concept in mind, I decided to solve this problem with an operating system that's opt-in instead of opt-out. So to avoid this kind of scary hyper reality we see in this video. So on the next slide, I'll actually show you the solution I created. So it's a quick little demo, but the idea is that this is my very messy workspace. I have a lot of different things happening, working on a bunch of different things. My to-do list up here, calendar in the background, but hop into augmented reality, we can clean that up. I can move my taskbar up to me. I can see what I want to work on. I can see my calendar. all these elements are within the 3D space and really leveraging the idea of like full spatial encounters, but then taking that a step further and then allowing us to remove objects from our space. So I think that's a big value of augmented reality. So I designed gestures to swipe into a hobby mode where I'm working on a video. And this is a hobby that I enjoy, but it tends to get a little messy, especially with my desk having notes for work and then notes for a video, too many things all at once. So I designed around this idea of like being able to engage in my life the way I wanted to, and then removing those elements with a swipe of my hand. So on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more on the design and how I decided to focus on this. The real idea behind this is leveraged in kind of the idea of affordances and how different spaces afford us the opportunity to do things. So I focused on making this unintrusive, making it minimally invasive, and having very organic interactions. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk to you a little bit about how I designed the poses. How I designed the space. So originally the idea is that I want to be able to remove all this mess from my room and be able to swap the same way you would on your computer between spaces, but actually do that in the physical world almost. And so if we go to the next slide, I'll show you how I designed the different interactions. And here we have 3 common interactions: a vertical menu, a space swap, and then a clearing of the space. These were, I think, the main focuses of my development process, as these were like core to showing what the experience could be. But then, yeah, I can talk a little bit more about my timeline of how I developed on the next slide, because there's a lot that went into this. So I had a lot of research done prior to this on interaction design and kind of like talking with people about how do you design for 3D spaces and all the different nuances that come with that. But throughout a lot of this, I spent a lot of time just learning hand tracking, how to make hand tracking work, how to get poses right, gestures right. And then Meta kept releasing new material, new things. So there's a lot of time that went into just understanding that to develop the system. But yeah, there's a lot that went into creating systems for switching scenes, switching spaces, understanding hand gestures and tracking those hand gestures, and all the different issues that come up with tracking and inside-out tracking. But on the next slide, it goes to show that there's still so much more that needs to be done. So I created something very simple, but there needs to be a system to integrate applications, and how do we actually have a custom interaction system to help other people bring in interactions. So I can talk your ear off about this, but there's a lot more that I want to work on in this. But yeah, I can talk to you a little bit more about the challenges and takeaways on the next slide. With any cutting edge technology, I had alluded to this a little bit, but the idea of like new technology coming out, or new versions of a technology coming out every other month, is pretty crazy. And so with this, I actually ran into a lot of issues with just people hadn't experimented with it. People didn't really know how to respond. And so trying to find help online to make my very specific use case work, there were not too many Stack Overflow posts about it, unfortunately. So I spent a lot of time learning new skills. But I think my takeaway from that was actually, I really need to focus on building on bones. So kind of creating that structure first and then adding the meat on afterwards, and making sure like the base system worked before adding more. The second part of that was, it would help so much to have a collaborator. I realized bouncing ideas off of somebody helps you get out of that mental kind of lock where you're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to solve this. This kind of just, you feel like you're hitting a wall. And so having collaboration is so important, which is why on the next slide, I would love if anybody who did want to talk about this, or did want to work on this, or had interesting career opportunities, would want to reach out to me, get in touch with me at this email, or find me at my website or LinkedIn. But yeah, that's all for me. And thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Sean. Yeah, you can go ahead and tackle a couple of questions from the questions section.
Yeah, so I see at the top, what programming language and software tools that I use for this project. So there's a lot. Majority was Unity 3D and C#. That was most of the development side. But from the design side, and then within Unity, I was using Meta's SDK. I had looked into trying to understand different like OpenXR systems, but I think just assigning it to one system first was a lot easier in implementation. And instead of trying to have too many things to learn all at once, I decided to focus it a little bit more. And then in terms of how my project could be scaled or improved in the future, there's a lot that can go into just creating better systems to be integrated with other systems. So creating almost like an API for other people to plug into. The current way it's set up is not very flexible or dynamic. And that was just because I had to validate a lot of different ideas, and there's a lot of new things that I needed to pick up. But yeah, I see from Brian, Sean, you mentioned that in the future you would need to integrate or provide the ability to integrate with third-party software. How does working with integrations and APIs differ between the Excel realm and standard software? So the differences I would think are I wouldn't say are too different. I'm not too familiar actually with working with building an API, so that's something I would need to learn. But from my understanding, it wouldn't be too different. It would just be plugging into Unity instead of plugging into a different system, or creating your own system for software to plug into. And then, yes, I did use the Meta Presence platform because it had the best hand tracking and the best systems for pass-through that actually worked with the Quest, and that's what I had available to test with. Would have loved to do it with the Vision OS, but I don't have $3,000 for the developer license of Unity, so unfortunately I couldn't do that. But yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean. And if there's any outstanding questions, feel free to answer them in the questions tab. All right. So I'm going to call next on stage the next presenters that are presenting Kingdoms Redemption. Hi, Lloyd.
Hello.
And will your co-presenter be joining us this afternoon?
Unfortunately not. She had some things to do, so I'll be doing her part as well.
All right. All the best. I'll get off the stage now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. Our project is called Kingdoms Redemption, and it showcases an arrangement of our skills as game designers. All right, let's begin. Next slide, please. My name is Lloyd Watson. I am a game developer and designer who worked on Kingdom Redemption. I believe that video games are a work of art, and I'm currently looking to get a job as a game designer or a game programmer in the industry. This is my partner, Maggie Wong. She is a game designer who also worked on Kingdoms Redemption. She believes that video games are a form of communication and expression. Next slide, please. The inspirations and goals that we used for our game is we wanted to create a fun top-down action adventure that is rich with story and unique characters. We took a lot of inspiration from other popular top-down RPG games, such as Link's Awakening and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Next slide, please. These are some of the features that the game has to offer. As you can see, the game offers a large variety of exploration which will keep the players interested in exploration. The levels we have so far is a valley level where the player starts, then they travel through a vast desert canyon, then finally the player will navigate through an icy wonderland to reach the final dungeon to defeat the Dark Lord. And we do have a map of the Winter Wonderland level in the next slide. Yes, so this is one of our level maps that we both worked on. And then on our next slide, we have like all the areas displayed. So when the player enters this level, they start out in an abandoned residential district. Then they will navigate through some snowy mountains. And if players wanted to, they can go inside the ice treasure maze to find some like valuable treasures such as potions and weapons. And then the final end part of the level is a Crimson Ice Castle where the final boss of the game is. Next slide, please. And this was our production plan. Week 1, we first started out with writing detailed game documents and did some research on the marketing. Week 2, we worked on polishing the gameplay and designing levels. Week 3, we tested the game's mechanics, worked on coding iteration, revising and designing levels. Week 4 was when we optimized the game experiences based on the feedback and test results. We also worked on designing the UI and dialogue system. Then we added in the special features and other special effects. In week 5, we fixed all bugs and issues. Then we revised and finalized the levels and finished working on all the interfaces. And on our next slide, I believe is our demo. So yeah, enjoy.
Welcome to Kingdoms Redemption, an immersive fantasy adventure that will take you on a journey like no other.
In a realm shrouded in darkness, where the echoes of a forgotten past linger, a hero emerges to defy fate and restore hope. Embark on an epic journey as a courageous prince, determined to break the chains of tyranny and reclaim his kingdom from the clutches of darkness. Explore vast and immersive landscapes from enchanted forests to frozen tundras, each with their own secrets to uncover and challenges to overcome. Face off against formidable foes and unravel the mystery of the ancient prophecies as you fight to free your kingdom from the grip of the sinister Dark Lord.
Join us as we delve into the development and unveil the challenges and triumphs behind the creation of this epic tale. Crafted with passion and dedication, Kingdoms Redemption offers a rich tapestry of gameplay experiences, from thrilling combat encounters to mind-bending puzzles. Our journey began with a vision to create a game that would captivate players and immerse them in a world of wonder and adventure. However, the path to realization was not without its challenges. Each obstacle we encountered only fueled our determination to deliver the best possible experience. We invite you to join us on this epic quest. Are you ready to embark on a journey of redemption? The fate of the kingdom rests in your hands. Kingdom's Redemption awaits.
So of course, we had challenges while making the game. The challenges we faced when making the game was coming up with a compelling narrative. We also ran into some technical issues involving programming and trying to find a good balance between the game's difficulty. With working on the iterative design and growth in technical creativity, we have come a long way in improving our game, and we hope to hear feedback from others who inform us on future issues, so we can fix the problem and make improvements. Next slide, please. The next steps we have planned for Kingdoms Redemption are: we plan to expand the levels so players can explore and discover new areas. Secondly, we plan to add more NPCs and enemies to the game and improve our game performances. Lastly, we plan to release the game to the public once we finish all these steps, so like maybe releasing it on Steam or Epic Games. Next slide, please. And thank you all for viewing our presentation. We are glad that we were able to share Kingdoms Redemption with you all. And if you're interested, our contact information is on the final slide. Yeah, so thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to our presentation.
All right, great job, Lloyd and Maggie. Please feel free to tackle a couple of questions in the questions area, Lloyd.
Sure, I'll click on the questions tab. Let's see. Don't see very many questions.
Oh, I have one for you. So question for Lloyd. Nice and cute game. What would you do differently if you were to start this project from scratch?
What I would probably do is like make sure to add a lot more features and to like the character's inventory system and add like a stamina bar. So if they use so when they use magic, it like uses up their energy bar and then they have to refill it. And also I would come up with a more complex story with like lore and characters' backstory.
All right. And the second question, did you run into any problems when testing the game? Because I see there are a few large maps that the player can go.
Yes, there were some problems with like the health bar system and some of the character collisions. Like I took like a huge amount of time like working on all those issues, and it was good that I put in the extra time because in the end it all paid off.
Right. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Lloyd. Please check the questions tab to see if there's any other outstanding questions for you, and feel free to answer them directly on the tab. Now, up next, we have Robo Combat presented by Edwin, Brandon, and Mike. All right, you're all here, so I will leave the stage. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Juana. We're here to talk about Capstone Project Robo Combat. Next slide. Hi, my name is Edwin Bain. We're project manager.
Edwin, sorry for the interruption, but it looks like it's something with your mic.
Oh, sorry.
Because
is it better now?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Okay. So, hi, my name is Edwin Vang. I'm a 2-year project coordinator and project at a pre-media package company. I wanted to pursue a career in the game industry and mainly to become a game developer. I'm looking for any career opportunities or mentorship. And also, our team is looking for a sponsorship for our game. Our contact information can be found on our last slide, and I'd like to now introduce the floor to Brandon.
Thank you, Edwin. My name is Brendan Sarabian. I graduated from college about a year ago, and I've been working as a 3D artist in Blender. I enrolled in this boot camp because I wanted to pursue a career in game development, as I've had a long time love of gaming. I'm looking for any career opportunities available, internships, entry level, anything. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mike.
Thanks, Brendan. My name is Mike Jablonski. I've been working as a project and program manager for over a decade, and now I'm really happy to try myself as a game developer with my new team and Brendan. And regarding the potential opportunities, I'm open to any that can be proposed to my team and me personally. So, and yeah, this is pretty much it about myself. and I'm going to give the floor to Edwin to proceed with the game presentation itself.
Thank you so much, Mike. So our goal was to create a sci-fi fighting game. This game was inspired by our love of sci-fi, our love of Tekken, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. And when we're thinking about it, we wanted to create a proof of concept that highlighted, showcase all our effort, our work, our technical skills that we developed in the Game Developer Bootcamp. So keeping that in mind, we wanted to focus on 4 key aspects of our game that we wanted to develop. 1, a functional game menu. 2, a character selection menu. 3, a spawning mechanic. And 4, gameplay. Within the spawning mechanic, we wanted to have the players that are able to choose their characters have interaction in the game, and also showcase our unique procedural levels of stage design that's very unique to our game. All right, thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide, talking about the timeline. So in our timeline, we split into 3 different parts. First stage was the brainstorming phase. Second stage was the actual building of the game. And third stage was debugging and optimizing the game. In these aspects, we first focused on creating a lot of ideas that we wanted to be into the game. The second part was we simplified our ideas to make it more concrete, and then developed our design patterns that we wanted to discuss. And third was where we fixed all the issues that we are having. And we're still growing and developing our game, but our proof of concept was what made us enjoy and excited. As you can see in the third image was our final proof of concept. Now I'll hand the floor over to Mike to talk about our game intro and features.
Can we go? Yeah, thanks. Talking about the game itself, I would like to say a couple of words about the game scenario. So RoboCombat is set in a futuristic post-apocalyptic arena where metal warriors clash for supremacy. And our game features kind of like sleek design, powerful moves, and polygon style environment. Implemented that, we were thinking about ensuring smooth performance on any device type with high quality graphical elements. And our goal was to create an experience where players can enjoy adrenaline-fueled action and epic showdowns, and they command their kind of robotic champions to dominate the wasteland. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And getting into more technical aspects of our game. So we'd like to split it into 3 main parts. First one is 2-player game mode. Second one is animation, and last but not least, game mechanics. Talking about the 2-player game mode, as a key, we implemented as a key feature since it was POC version, and with that functionality, our game delivers the ability to control 2 distant players on single device, allowing friends and families to engage in a kind of multiplayer fights, but on the single device. Talking about the animation, we're going to do for smooth transition. We used blend trees to make kind of fluid animation sequences. To create dynamic hit reactions, we implemented animation events, right? Utilizing the embedded animation event system of Unity for realistic effects, feedback, and responsiveness. And talking about the game mechanics, they've developed kind of powerful fighting system, including effects like heavy attacks for impactful punches. And also it was mentioned regarding the mechanics that it includes a robust blocking system, combo chains, probably on the start level, but nevertheless, an advanced moves and health management system. And before I finish with this part, it was mentioned regarding the design patterns we used, mostly used in the game. So first, component-based design pattern, template method pattern to make the code reusable, strategy pattern, observer pattern, factory method pattern, and single clones in the player selection menu. Yeah, this is pretty much it, and let's get to the demo of the game. Yeah, thanks a lot for the video. I really enjoyed watching this video, and I hope everyone felt the same. And honestly saying, I can't wait to bring this game to consoles in the future and play it with my friends. That's pretty much it from my side. And now I'm going to hand it over to Brandon to proceed with the challenges and takeaways slide.
Thank you, Michael. Number 1 for challenges and takeaways, GitHub issues. At one point, we each had a different version of the project, and so this resulted in a few merge problems arising from time to time. Thankfully, though, we were able to navigate our differing situations, and we were able to resolve this issue very efficiently. Number 2, technical experience. This was a fun project to be involved with. It was great to build a game using the skills that we acquired from the bootcamp and even develop them further. Honestly, my favorite technical aspect was the player states. We were like my friend Mike said earlier, we were able to include a light and heavy hit state. And finally, game system integration. Thanks to being able to stay connected via Discord calls, we were able to keep each other motivated, and we were able to, on top of that, we were able to delegate our time very well between each other, and this resulted in us integrating our different works into this one project. Next slide, please. Next steps for the future. AI mode. We hope to create a single player mode in which you can fight against an AI-controlled opponent. More maps. We hope to create more stages in which the player can use. As much as we like the initial one you saw in the trailer, we would like to create more. And finally, portability/multiplayer. We hope to make this game playable on portable options, as well as include an online feature in which you can use to play with anyone, anywhere. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you so much for listening to the presentation. As mentioned, our contact can be found here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay.
All right. Well done. Please feel free to tackle a couple of questions in the questions tab.
Okay, so Robocon, but if it looks like your project has a lot of mechanics, what steps do you take to ensure effective communication and collaboration within your team? So every week we have our own discussion meeting that we have on Discord, discussing about the different aspects that we've done, and then from there we collaborated and figure out, oh, if this is idea, we explored it, and then from there we were able to connect with each other and be like, oh, this is a good. Oh, building off of that excitement, we are able to. Sorry, some reason the mic keep muting me for some reason, but we were able to build a cohesive project that was very unique to us. If Mike wants to speak further. Oh, you're muted, Mike.
What about now? Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Regarding the very dependent, I'd like to answer for the question. We're very dependent on the animation being interactive to react to the He's right. Actually, it was the biggest challenge during this game development, and here's the room for the further improvements since as of now, everything is tightly related to animation itself, and we call some logic methods that process some logic right from the particular animation, which makes in the future it will make, as of now, it's quite fine to work with this stuff, but in the future it will make the game quite massive to support it. And we were thinking about developing embedded, proprietary developed the event system, which will handle it like at least with having kind of single interface, been able to manage all of these dependencies right from that script.
All right, amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Please feel free to continue answering the questions directly on the questions tab. And we'll move on to the next presenters. So up next, we're going to have Those Divine Few presented by Justin, Oliver, and Rico.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
All right.
You're all
Hello.
here. So,
Hello.
hi, Rico. Okay, I will leave the stage. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Onai. So today, my group and I are here to present Those Divine Few, a vertical slice sort of proof of concept demo created with a 1-month timeline. And on the next slide, we can start meeting the team. My name is Justin. I'm a game developer from Vancouver, BC, specializing in Unity 3D, GitHub version control, and the C# coding language. I'm seeking employment and internship or mentorship. My roles on Those Divine Few was that of the project lead and the lead developer. As a lead developer, I was in charge of the narrative, level, and game design, as well as sourcing the 3D model and audio for the game. I also handled the writing and implementation of all the scripts, UI, animation, and sound effects seen in the game that aren't mentioned by Rico and Oliver on their own team slides. As a project lead, I was responsible for planning the sprints that broke the development into week-by-week chunks and handling the version and branch management through GitHub. Now, moving on to the next slide, we can hear some words from Oliver.
Hello, my name is Oliver Marsh. I am a Unity developer from Nelson, British Columbia. And to this project, I contributed the implementation of the player HUD as well as enemy health UI and the scripts accompanying those. I contributed scripts that handled item drops from enemies, and I contributed minor things to the player movement as well as attacks, as well as player feel. I am looking for either entry-level work or an internship, and I'm willing to relocate anywhere within British Columbia or Alberta. And with that, next slide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rico Green. I'm a Unity developer based here in New Westminster, British Columbia. I'd just like to make fact real quick that I do have dual citizenship within the Canada and the United States, so I am wishing to utilize both. My key role in this project contribution was creating the main menu, the options menu, and the audio scripts. My key skills I'd like to focus on were Unity 3D, Unity 2D, and C# programming language. The next slide will show the inspirations of our game.
So when we were making Those Divine Few, we went in wanting to make a third-person action game, sort of a mythological, larger-than-life atmosphere, similar to games like God of War, Shadow of the Colossus, and Asura's Wrath. So for us, it was important to nail the sort of cinematic aspect of the game, as well as make sure the controls sort of felt punchy and powerful to create the feeling of that sort of archetypal demigod like Kratos or Asura. And so we can move into the next slide.
So what is Those Divine Few? Well, the story of Those Divine Few follows Jerbolcha, the child of a god-born mentor Harab and the goddess of justice Aventus. The gods break from their seal, after as which the player can pick any of the gods they wish to take down. As the story does progress, Gibraltar finds herself losing humanity as she takes in the powers of the gods she's slain, and the messenger goddesses warns her that she must die at the end of this pass to truly vanquish the gods. Next slide, please.
So we separated the development of those divine few into 4 single-week sprints. This was done in an attempt to avoid scope creep and to ensure that what was most important got completed first. The first sprint was the player sprint. This was for finding and implementing the 3D models, animations, and sound effects for all the player various states, and designing a character controller to facilitate them, as well as implementing the third-person camera. The second sprint was the enemy sprint. This week was for getting the enemies implemented in a way that we did for the player. We implemented the models, sounds, and animations, and created a pseudo-state machine that would allow the enemies to chase the player, attack the player, and let the other enemies know about the player that may be close enough to look like they should be joining the fight, but aren't actually within range for their own state machine's detection of the player. The third sprint was the Gamify sprint. This was for designing the level and implementing level assets, creating the mandatory UI, and making sure the player character and the enemies interacted well in the level scene. We also implemented Oliver's item drops to the enemies and boxes throughout the game world. It was during this week that we added an exposition cutscene at the beginning of the game, and Oliver touched up the combat animations so they strung together in a more visually appealing way. Next was the bonus sprint. This was for things that weren't quite as important, but we felt added some extra juice to the game. This was a week that we added a weapon system, including variable player stats to change the playstyle, and 3 upgrade tiers for the 3 implemented weapons. We also added some earthquakes in the game world to give that impending sense that something really big is coming your way to lead into the appearance of the boss at the end of the demo. And finally, it was a presentation sprint. We used this week for playtesting and ironing out the major bugs. This was where we added the ability to cancel out of attacks, and we also received the feedback that it felt more like a controller game, so we were sure to add controller support as quickly as we possibly could. And then, all that work culminated in our minimum viable product, which we can see the trailer for on the next slide.
It is far too soon to die, child. Prophecy is unfulfilled. Pick up your blade, Godslayer. Wake up.
Awesome. But of course, no project comes without its own set of difficulties. And here, each member of the team will talk about one of their own that they found in this project. So my biggest issue was scope creep. There was so much that I wanted to add to this project, such as the godly boon system that's present only by description and UI mockup in the game. I realized that in order to implement it properly, we would have to create multiple levels and bosses, which meant it was more worth spending the time creating things that were feasible to implement in the small time frame we had.
And so a challenge I faced was while adjusting game feel, our character controller had gotten quite convoluted, and so it would often be a challenge to navigate different aspects of Gibraltar's moveset, as well as navigating what animations were tagged to what and what led into what for buffering purposes and such.
My key challenge within this project was trying to create the options menu. It was a very huge thorn in my side, trying to create the audio mixers and trying to create a graphics resolution, knowing that it's something that was completely out of my field of range. And one of my personal key takeaways from that was by utilizing my ability to research and using Unity's built-in functions and allowing me to understand on what can go where and making it all line up, I was able to learn a lot more than I ever realized. Next slide, please.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. All right, so all 3 of us, on the next slide, please. Perfect. All three of us can be reached at our respective contacts shown here, whether that's LinkedIn, by email, or by phone. Or you can check out our portfolios to see what else we've done. We look forward to connecting with you all, and if there are any other questions, we'll gladly answer those to the best of our abilities.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much. Please feel free to tackle a couple of the questions in the question tab.
All right, so Diana asked how we decided what features to include and we wanted to execute in our project. So I know personally, a lot of the stuff is stuff that I was learning for the first time and kind of had to figure out as I went along. So a lot of it really just came down to what we felt was something that we could learn and implement within the time frame we had. We had a few things that we cut for time purposes, such as the boss fight is present in cinematic, but not implementation. And we also were hoping to get a sort of XP system in, but that was something that we felt could be implemented later instead of focusing on the enemies early on to make sure that they really reacted well with the player.
One of the things I was actually going to say was I was also, sorry, it's going to be real quick, but I was also working on the options menu that there was one minor thing I was going to add, but I ended up scrapping, was going to be a gallery to check out the enemies, the weapons, and the bosses. It just had little minor descriptions, but realizing going into this, it might have been too bold. So we only stuck to a graphics resolution select and a audio mixer.
Right, and so something I wish I had sort of more focused in on would have been more focusing on how enemies reacted to being attacked and just generally more on the enemy to affect the game feel.
Right. All right, amazing. For the sake of time, please feel free to tackle any other questions directly on the questions tab. And thank you so much.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys. Bye-bye.
So up next, we have Jackie Wu, who is presenting Monster Waves. Welcome to the stage, Jackie.
Thank you, One-Eye.
All right, I am going to leave the stage. The stage is all yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie, and today I'm excited to present to you a game I've developed called Monster Waves. It's a first-person shooter wave survival game that I created entirely as a solo developer. But before diving into the details of the game, I'd like to take a moment to share a little about myself. Next slide, please. I'm an aspiring game developer and full-stack web developer located in Vancouver, Canada, actively seeking entry-level opportunities in development, whether full-time positions, internships, or mentorships. I recently graduated with a bachelor's in mathematics and computer science, complemented by an associate's degree in computer science. My top 3 skills are C# with Unity for game development, TypeScript JavaScript for web development, and a strong foundation in mathematics. Next slide, please. Now returning to Monster Waves. This game draws inspiration from 2 iconic titles, Call of Duty Zombies for its core wave survival mechanic, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive for its diverse weapon mechanics. Next slide, please. Moving on to the 3 main highlights of Monster Waves. First, Monster Waves features interactables like teleporters, which enhances mobility and strategy in gameplay. Secondly, the game's weapons features includes the versatile M4 rifle, providing players with a range of tactical options. Lastly, Monster Waves introduces enemy state machines that bring dynamic AI behaviors such as zombies and aggressive attack states, creating intense and engaging combat scenarios. Next slide, please. Now let's explore the detailed timeline of Monster Waves development. In week 1, I conducted research and planning, gathering free assets and setting up the project. Week 2 focused on implementing robust enemy AI and interactables using state machines, animation transitions, raycast, and collision detection. By week 3, I refined weapon mechanics with features like swapping, shooting dynamics, reloading, and ammo pickups. Week 4 involved crafting the player interface, map design, and implementing gameplay mechanics such as dynamic health and sprint bar, damage effects, and weapon icons. Week 5 was dedicated to polishing the game, including creating a main menu, rigorous testing, debugging, refactoring, and refining features. Finally, I prepared and published the minimum viable product on itch.io. Next slide will show a demo of Monster Waves in action. Next slide, please. One significant challenge I encountered was with enemy AI state machines and animation transitions, which frequently broke or failed to achieve realistic transitions during animations. This highlighted the intricate nature of crafting a realistic game environment and the challenges inherent in achieving seamless gameplay and immersive experience. Another notable challenge involved implementing a headshot explosion effect on zombie enemies. Despite creating a fragmented head model using Blender, integrating it with zombie skin mesh render posed difficulties. This integration issue prevented the fragmented head from moving with the zombie's animation seamlessly, emphasizing the time-consuming yet rewarding nature of game development and the importance of meticulous attention to detail. Next slide, please. As I look ahead, I have exciting plans for Monster Waves. I aim to introduce diverse monsters, expand weapon options, and add new interactable elements. I also plan to include challenging boss encounters and optimize game performance. Professionally, I'm seeking an entry-level development role to apply and grow my skills. I'm passionate about creating a multiplayer game to explore new dimensions of game development and committed to continuous learning and innovation in the gaming industry. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information, whether you are considering providing me with an opportunity or simply wish to connect. I look forward to any potential collaborations or networking. Thank you.
All right, great work, Jackie.
Thank you.
Feel free to tackle a couple of questions in the questions tab.
Okay, so I have a question from Diana. How did you handle project management, and what tool did you use to track progress? Okay, so we had a development log, which I used to track my progress throughout the weeks. And I pretty much just wrote down what I've done and what I did, like every step. And then I just summarized it at the end of the week into a form that I could read later on so I can reflect on what I've done. And then we have a question from Brian. How did you handle the monster spawns? Do they spawn randomly or in specific positions? Additionally, what is the scaling of the game like wave over wave? Is it more zombies, more health? Why did you make that decision? Okay, so first about the spawners. The spawns are somewhat random. There are spawn locations, and throughout the waves, the zombies, depending on how many are within a wave, it will spawn accordingly, but in different positions randomly. And then the scaling of the game, wave over wave, right now it's just an incremental increase of about I think 3, and then it's just more zombies at the moment. But I plan to add different ways of specifying difficulty in waves, maybe like more unique enemies or bosses and on certain waves, perhaps like wave 10 or wave 20, there will be a boss which shows the increase in difficulty. And with the increase in difficulty, I would be adding more weapons in order to balance out the difficulty.
All right. All right. Amazing, Jackie. Thank you so much. Feel free to answer any remaining questions directly on the questions tab.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the next presentation. So up next, we have a cozy little library presented by Adam Tuck.
Hi, can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I'll leave the stage. No worries. I'm going to leave the stage and then take it away.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ryan. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming today. My name is Adam, and this is my capstone project, A Cozy Little Library. A little bit about me on the next slide. I'm an independent game developer working and living in Vancouver, Canada, that makes games with the name Ghostclef. There's my site there. I've been working in education and philanthropy for the last 10 years, doing web administration, development, design, contracting work. That said, I've had a lifelong passion for games, and last summer I took time off work to go to school and make a career switch into game development full-time. And I'm currently looking for entry-level employment or internship game development opportunities in the game industry. So on the next slide, my inspiration for the capstone project came from my first job, actually. A lot of folks' first job is like working in food service or just the service industry. But mine was at a library, which was a pretty fantastic starting job as far as starting jobs go. It was very relaxing and very chill. That feeling of that first work experience was really what spawned the idea for the game. And also games in kind of the cozy genre and simulator games were also things that fed into my interest in creating something like this, and the library's look and feel. So in the next slide, we'll break down the features of the game. It's meant to be very cozy and intimate with sort of a day-night cycle and changing weather outside. I kind of had the image of sort of rain pattering on the window outside while you're warm indoors as sort of the core inspiration of the feel I wanted to get. The tasks you do are all snappy and satisfying. So you shelve books, organize them in order, you collect holds to take behind the desk, and you tidy up the space. The game is an infinite loop, so each day you just work 9 to 5, and then your performance for each day is tracked over time, getting rewarded for high performance. The game is meant to be as low stress as possible with no lost condition or failure state. It's meant to just be sort of a comfortable space where you can play and relax. So on the next slide, we'll look at the timeline that we used to develop the game. So I made this over the course of a month. In the first week, it was brainstorming and deciding on the core gameplay and setting up the basics. Week 2 was getting the basic mechanics working, making the game playable. Week 3 was spent on the environment and getting the setting looking right and the environment feeling good. Week 4, I did gameplay polish and gave it to friends and family for a round of playtesting. And then in the final week, I fixed bugs and did some quality of life updates based on feedback from that testing to tighten things up a bit. And in the next slide, I've got a short trailer that we can watch to demo the game. All right. Thanks so much. Okay, so the game is currently out in what I'm calling early access. So over the next couple months, I'm planning on adding a few more features, including cosmetics as a reward for good performance and the tidy up mechanic. Those are currently on the top of my list to just make it feel a little bit more complete. As far as September, that's going to be the end. No matter what, I'm going to be calling it mostly done, and I'm going to be moving on to other projects at that point, considering it kind of a completed experience. But I would post more updates and any fixes based on further feedback. On the next slide, I'll talk about some challenges and takeaways. So the biggest one was scope. It's hard to not get excited about every little idea you have and just get them all in there. I had to get a lot better at project management for this. Charla helped a lot with that to take all my brainstorming days and just sort of store them in a swim lane so I could just get back to focusing on the most important immediate thing. Originality is tough. It's a very saturated market. Barrier to entry is very low. So I thought by drawing inspiration from my personal experiences, make the game kind of more personal. Optimization was a challenge. Writing code quickly is always a risk. I made sure to go back and refactor and implement good practice once I liked something that I prototyped. Developing solo was the biggest one for me. I always work best when I'm bouncing ideas off other people, and it's tough to work completely independently. So to combat that, I kind of grew my network of other developers to talk about ideas and progress, and I'm aiming to work more collaboratively in the future. On that note, if you're interested in talking shop, either employment or collaboration related, or just want to connect, feel free to reach out via any of the methods listed on my last slide here. You can also give the game a try on itch and see my whole portfolio on ghostclef.com. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day and the presentations.
Amazing job, Adam. Please feel free to tackle a couple of questions in the questions tab.
Oh, sure. Nice. So Diana, nice project. Cozy Little Library question. Can you share your progress for bug tracking and fixing during the project? Yeah, I set up like a quick Google form for any of my playtesters to just fill out and give me feedback, kind of like quick thoughts, and kind of to structure the feedback a little bit. And then I had a couple one-on-ones with them also to just kind of like watch them play test the game. That's a really big way to kind of like draw out things and watch how they interact with things. I learned a lot about that. You can never really expect how people are going to interact with the game until you see them play it. So that was a cool experience. Have you ever considered adding new libraries? I love these kinds of games, but I can also picture taking care of a library in a more grandiose setting with a library that's almost magical in its architecture. Yes, that's something that I really wanted to do. I had a couple of ideas for other environments that I was exploring. This one I was literally modeling after. I actually had a picture of it. I used it as my first job, like as kind of like the sort of the ideal sort of setting, and I was making sort of an idealistic version of it a little bit. But I did have a lot of other ideas for thematic things that I wanted to do. First, I didn't do them here, obviously, but would definitely be interested in that in the future.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam. Great job. Yeah, again, feel free to answer any outstanding questions directly on the questions tab.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. Moving on, we have up next Malone's Detective Adventure, presented by Jintong, Timothy, Mason, and Jonah. All right. Everybody's here, so I will leave the stage.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh no.
All right, it looks like we lost a couple of your presenters.
Fantastic.
Did you want to go ahead and then they can join in they can join in once the presentation is started, or did you want me to move on to the next one and have you come back on?
Oh,
there we go.
Hey,
it's working now.
Jonah. Hey.
All right. So
And it's a Zintong. Oh my goodness, the party's back together.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
all the best.
Thank you.
My computer is eager to hear our presentation, so let's get started.
All right.
Hi everyone, this is the team for the game Malone's Detective Adventure. We are a 4-people group, and interestingly, 2 of us are from the developer cohort. The other 2 are from the designer cohort. So let's introduce ourselves. Next slide, please. My name is Xintong Li. I'm from the Design Bootcamp. I'm the project lead, gameplay designer, and gameplay programmer.
Hello, my name is Timothy Kranicki, and I was the narrative designer for this project.
My name is Mason Brown. I was one of 2 game developers on this project, and my main focus was with the interaction system.
Hi, my name is Jonah Tredula. Xintong will be presenting the next slide.
Okay, next slide, please. So we designed our game to tackle a common problem appeared in most detective games. So lots of those detective games designed the detective sequence as like some multiple choice problems. For instance, in L.A. Noire, the problem is like you select from doubt, trust, or lie. Or say in Judgment, the choice is like a given list of 6 evidences. This basically turns those detective sequences as some multiple choice problems. We are coming with something new to this genre. The inspiration is coming from the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, namely the mask system. In Majora's Mask, you can equip different masks and talk to different NPCs to get different dialogue sequences. So we designed to bring this system into the detective genre. Next slide, please. The result is one of our highlights of the game, the message action and storage keyword system. Malone's knowledge about the case is gathered in the form of keywords. This acts both as a notebook-style information collection and also a way to initiate dialogue with others. If you select a keyword from the hotbar and then talk to the person, you can trigger a dialogue directly regarding that keyword as a topic. Similarly, you can always select a piece of evidence from the hotbar and then talk to a person to initiate a conversation, to accuse, to dot, etc. This basically provides us with a unified framework for doing dialogues and make our game appears to have more freedom. Next slide, please. However, this system makes our game a little bit unconventional. Therefore, to help players solving this game, we also introduced some accessibility settings. The first one is the hint system. By pressing the hint button, the player can track a hint at any time to aid their process. The second one is the adjustable dialogue trigger system, aka the difficulty setting system. This basically checks how rigorous the game demands the player to choose the correct answer. So on the next slide, Tim will be presenting us the plot and story highlight.
So in the game, Malone's Detective Adventure, players will take control of a private investigator named Jake Malone. Jake receives a phone call late one night from a mysterious stranger who offers him a lead. Now, Jake is desperate for work, so obviously he accepts. Little do players know that the events that would unfold would begin to unravel in such a way that he starts to investigate a murder involving a television host and ultimately leading to a shadowy cult full of mysterious figures. It was also decided that our main character would also take inspiration from a quirky detective sort of character trope that you'd often find in late 1980s and early 1990s detective mysteries. And he'd also need to have an additional character to fill the role of a companion. With this being an adventure game, we also realized that players would need a system in place that would allow them to refer to their collected notes, facts, evidence, or other pieces of information. And on to the next slide. And this is how the character of Rosie was created. So Rosie is essentially Jake's office cat, but he also shares a very powerful psychic connection with her. So this minor detail plays off of that quirky character trope, but also adds a little bit of otherworldliness to our story, which is exactly the vibe that we were going for. So instead of worrying about the logistics of implementing a sort of an in-universe form of communicating or calling back into the office, telepathically connecting with Rosie will allow players to essentially have access to a multi-tool type character. So they would be able to have options to save the game, call up any various item or evidence description, ask her for any hints how to proceed, or just initiate comedic relief dialogue. And on the next slide, we'll have our demo video played for you.
Alright, so that's the end of our demo. I'll now take us through the timeline of our game. Our first week was mostly geared towards writing the script of our game and putting together our aspects such as GitHub and a Google Drive that we shared to send any documents that we would accumulate over the course of the first week. The following week is when the gameplay related dialogue for the NPCs and interactions were put together. Our week 3 and 4 was when everything as in specs of like the actual game was put together. It was mostly focused on the development. We created all the scenes and cutscenes. We implemented the interaction and dialogue systems and put together the movement and physics. Our final week was spent debugging and optimizing aspects of the game to improve the overall feel and quality for the player. In our next slide, we'll each share the greatest challenge and how we were able to overcome it, as well as what we took away from this experience overall as individuals. My biggest challenge was proper implementation of the interaction system and dialogue systems. To overcome this hurdle, I did more research on Raycast as a whole and how they functioned, as well as talking with the team to make sure what I was implementing worked for the overall feel that we were going for. And my takeaway from this is more in-depth knowledge of coding in C# as well as practice debugging, as well as collaborating with a team to make a game the way someone else would like it to run and feel.
And my main challenge was not only writing the plot, but also tracking it and ensuring that the rest of the team had a record and reference for all text that would be used in-game. So as a solution, I implemented the use of a shared Excel document, which basically served as a live Bark archive throughout the project as it progressed, and it was updated based on feedback from our sprint meetings. So in doing so, I was able to keep track of narrative progression dialogue, keywords, updates to inventory and item descriptions, in addition to activating casual flavor text from NPCs irrelevant to the story. This method offered a unique learning experience for myself as a writer, but it also streamlined the project's production process without the risk of any sort of miscommunication occurring between teammates and us reaching our design objectives.
My biggest challenge in this project is coming up with a good way to communicate with my fellow teammates. I eventually came up with the idea of a phase document that helped me have some very smooth conversation with my teammates about how each phase of the game was implemented. The takeaway for the whole project for me is the design and coding in C# skills, and also more importantly as a leader, collaboration and communication skills.
One of the main challenges in this project for me was developing the UI, translating the designer's ideas into a functional game. To overcome these obstacles, my takeaway from this project is the realization that and improvements. Next slide, please.
Sorry for the interruption, Jonah. Your voice is like, I mean, make sure your mic is close to your mouth.
Let's try this. How's that? Is that?
Yeah, I think that sounds better.
Welcome to the next evolution of our game. We're going to be adding exciting new features to enhance your gaming experience. First, we're bringing better and more animations for each character and NPC. This will make the game feel more alive and responsive, drawing you deeper into the immersive world. Next, we're adding more and lively detailed levels. These additions will further immerse you in the game, offering richer and more engaging environments. Improving graphics will set the mood for the game, making it feel more polished and visually stunning. Finally, we're overhauling the UI with a sleeker design and comprehensive options menu. You'll have more control over your playstyle, making your gaming experience truly personalized. Next slide, please. That is the end of our presentation. If you would like to get into contact with any of the devs on this team, here is the information and where you can contact us. We will now try our best to answer any and all questions you've had throughout our presentation.
I did see actually one very interesting question from Justin. Did we choose the name of the system so that it would fit the mask acronym, or it's just out of luck? Well, it is intentional because, as I said, the system was inspired by the mask system from Majora's Mask. So we make sure that our system is termed so that the acronym can be MASK. So yeah, it is intentional. Another question from Diana is, how did we balance the need for innovation with practical limitations or constraints? I would say it is basically we make sure that basically when I was designing the mechanics, I want to make sure that we have the tool, the ability, the power to actually implement them in Unity. That's actually the reason why I'm both a designer and programmer for the mechanics part. Because once I finish the design, I will try implementing it in Unity to make sure that it works. So to make sure that we are not designing something that none of us can implement.
All right.
That's enough question.
Amazing. All right, thank you so much. And feel free to continue answering any other questions on the question tab directly. All right, moving on. Up next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next we have Spy Death presented by Tuomo.
Hello, everyone.
All right, hello. I will leave the stage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation on Spy Death. Next slide, please. My name is Tuomo Sherman, and I'm a game developer who this past week graduated from the University of Toronto, majoring in physics and minoring in German and Spanish. Next slide. The goal of this project was to create a 3D first-person stealth shooter inspired by the likes of Metal Gear Solid and the Splinter Cell games. The objective of the game is quite simple. You have to try and eliminate all of the enemies, the guards in the facility without getting detected, or if you do get detected, to escape detection and work around that. Next slide, please. Here are some of the highlighted game mechanics. The first is the player's stealth. The player is empowered through the darkness, and as such, the enemies will struggle to see you when you're in the shadows and will see you from further away when you're in the light. The next is that all enemies and guards have their own unique patrol routes, which will change them from a patrolling state into a combat state upon player detection. I designed my own player detection model for this, which you can see in the third GIF. There are two sphere colliders that represent the enemy's audio, understanding of audio, and then a large cube collider that represents the visual side of the enemy. The enemy will then cast a ray from its eyes to the player to check for line of sight. And if the player does escape detection from the enemy will start a search action that is built using a node and edge graph system around the whole map. The enemies will traverse this node system until they find the enemy and can get back into their combat state. Next slide, please. Here I'll talk a little bit about the development journey. It started with a lot of planning. I wanted to make sure my AI used appropriate systems, and as such, I spent a lot of time deciding what was the correct system, and for me, it was the goal-oriented action planning system. This system, rather than using states, it uses goals, which are, you can create your own logic to choose the goals, and then each goal will have a series of actions beneath it that the enemy AI will work through to reach that goal. So my AI has 3 goals: patrolling, combat, and searching. The next phase was the execution, which was learning these systems, which I didn't actually go ahead and implement them immediately. I spent a lot of time learning the GOAP system because it is quite abstract. The next step was setting up my own GOAP system and the enemy controller, making sure the player can interact with the enemy, making sure that they can shoot the enemy and that the enemy can shoot the player. The third was implementing the GOAP actions, behaviors, and sensors. This, as I mentioned, was the patrol, the search, and the combat goals, and the various actions associated with them. And lastly was review, which was, for me, a lot of testing and a lot of fine-tuning and a few visual improvements as well. Next slide, please. And here's the short demo. For me, there were 3 large challenges that I learned from this whole process. And the first was that even more planning is necessary for a project like this. Iteration is all well and good, but I'd like to minimize the number of iterations I have to do, and planning even more for these systems is definitely necessary. The next was creating efficient enemy AI behaviors, especially the search function. and optimizing these. And for that, I would, again, need more planning. And the last one for me was that in a stealth game, it is very important for the player to understand the AI's intentions. And for that, I'd need to get better at animations so that the player is fully aware of what the enemy is planning to do and how the player can react to these enemies. Next slide. The future. So for me, this is how I will make my game AAA. It'll be adding better animations. This will, as I mentioned, is a huge part of stealth games, and I'd like to learn inverse kinematics for that. I'd like to add many more actions for the enemies, like an investigate action, so they can investigate sounds or disturbances before going into a combat state, and then to produce an early alpha for others to play test. And for me personally, I have 3 goals as well: a new job in the industry, and to create new opportunities for myself, whether that's improving my level design, my modeling, and as I mentioned, my animation skills. And lastly would be to start a new project that is completely different, perhaps a top-down 2D adventure game. Next slide. And that is all from me. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll answer a few questions now.
All right, amazing. Please feel free to tackle the questions, a couple of questions in the questions tab.
So a question from Michael. I did get a chance to look into, did you get a chance to look into behavior trees instead of GOAP? If yes, what won you over with GOAP? For me, what I did get a chance to look into behavior trees. I chose GOAP because of the scalability of the system, and also how dynamic the AI can become with all these actions and sort of decision-making paths, because all these actions can have costs associated to them for each goal, so they can reach these goals in different ways, which hopefully I'll implement in the future. And a question from Horatio. Is it about getting all spies death, or are you avenging a dead spy, or the spy just unalives people? That's a funny question. Spy death, I came up with the idea as it's sort of meant to represent the death of spies in general. You're not really a spy, you're more of a executioner, and in this world, your job is to kill people rather than to gather intel.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. And please feel free to answer any remaining questions in the question tab there. All right, now up next, we have X Instance presented by Leslie Donaldson. Leslie was not able to make it in person, but she did leave us with a pre-recording.
Hi, I'm Leslie Donaldson. Thank you very much for joining me today. And if you're seeing a recording of this presentation, that means I can't step away from the game design conference that I'm at. So I want to expend an extra special thank you to CircuitStream for allowing me to pre-record the presentation for my game design bootcamp capstone project, which is a game called Existence. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an award-nominated writer and author who is currently freelancing in the gaming industry. I've been in publishing for over 5 years and a little over 2 in game writing. I love games that have deep story. Some of my favorite titles are the Horizon franchise, Assassin's Creed franchise, Detroit Become Human, and The Last of Us series. But I do play video games of all kinds for escapism. Well, why would I need escapism? I have a child with some extra medical needs, and that makes me very much a pro-disability advocate. I'm also a wife, and I'm a hobbyist medievalist. Try to say that 10 times fast. And I recently left the emergency nursing field to pursue my creative interests full-time. I'm seeking studio employment in either game design or narrative design or game writing. More importantly, I think I'd like to further my connections with people in the gaming industry. Today I'm presenting Existence, a solo project I designed and built within the Unreal Engine. Existence is a linear 3D first-person strategy horror walking sim full of existential dread and cybernetic horror. A lethal game of tag in a maze. But before I tell you about this immersive story world, I'd like to bring you a word from my sponsor. If working from home makes you feel cut off from the world, or if you're just another corporate robot in the workplace, then Existence is your forever home. We provide top-notch residences for all of our employees. These buildings are hexagonally shaped, optimized for hanging out with your friends. Our island facility isn't just a place for you to work, it's a place for you to be taken care of, with the most advanced technology in medical care. We'll look after you forever. There is plenty of room for everyone at Existence, especially you. The inspiration for Existence came from two things. One was a pitch and switch assignment that we did earlier on in our course, where the game design that I had, I wasn't able to see fully come to fruition. And the second is this image from the Unreal Marketplace, and it was from OpenXR Labs. The timeline that I had was from the tail end of March until we were wrapped up in May 21st. And I'd like to tell you about the learning objectives that I've achieved. One of the reasons why I joined the Circuit Stream Game Design Bootcamp was to learn a holistic approach towards game design. And this included market research, because that's not something that I did before, even though I was freelancing in the industry. I wanted to improve my understanding of game design theory and put it into practice, especially including accessibility. And I wanted to expand my narrative skills by learning how to improve those environmental narratives and put them into place. I also learned how to apply the use of technology and project planning tools, such as GitHub and agile methodologies and so on. And finally, blueprinting. I had not done any work in a game engine prior to this, and Unreal just blew my mind, the amount of things that I could do. I've just scratched the surface with blueprinting, creating levels, creating a soundscape, doing some camera and cinematic work, and lighting design. I mean, I'm just so amazed at how much a person can do. One of the biggest challenges in designing Existence is figuring out how to make it interesting on replay, because neither a horror nor a maze are as exciting the second time round because you know what's coming. I'd like to show you how I got around this with a few video clips. One of the ways that I overcame this challenge was by giving the player more agency about their paths. Here, they can either choose to go across this vast hallway of blood and severed heads towards their destination, or they can choose to avoid that mess and go in the tiny cramped elevator that also happens to have blood stains on the floor. Obviously, the commercial I showed earlier is in-game footage, and it was a more creative way to present the gameplay rather than saying, hey, let me explain to you how tag works, or let me explain to you what a maze is, as we're all very familiar with that. In creating a game with the intention of there being at least one replay, I have created a maze that the player can change as they're going through by firing these projectable walls. The walls not only block the enemy from catching the player, but they also change the maze space. So there's multiple paths to get through, but one of the reasons for that is because if the player chooses to project a wall, then I need them to have an out to escape themselves. In presenting the player with 2 ways to get to the main maze, I've also given them a second different maze that they can play before they hit the main. This way, if the player chooses to play a second time and they didn't choose the elevator in the first path, now they've got another maze to go through that is completely distinct and has its own visuals and its own door opening puzzles to solve. And its own horrors too. Dying and respawning in these kind of games isn't particularly fun. That's why I created a liminal maze that is the space that players are taken to once they are caught, as a way to preserve the primary organic material that the main computer is looking for. In this space, the walls change each time the player's in there. The sound effects alternate. There's different posters on the wall that advertise movies that are never shown. And every movie digs deep into that sense of existential threat. And there was more than one occasion when the engine and I just didn't get along. I'll give you an example. Here we see one of my scary failed cybernetic patrol bots, except it's zooming around the lab and is hardly scary at all. Now, it was the parent, and its child at least knew how to behave. Even slimmed down with all the health points and the hit points taken out, I face challenges on pretty much a weekly basis with the actual moving pieces of the Unreal Engine and how to put this game from vision to reality. But every time something went wrong, that was an opportunity for me to either improve my design or to learn a new skill. Finally, the last challenge that I had was focusing on what exactly it was that I wanted to learn, because we all know that even after this very extensive course, I've only just scratched the surface of building a game in Unreal Engine. So my takeaway from all of this was streamline. I had some wonderfully horrific mazes built that I didn't actually end up using. Well, I did, but not in the way that you would think. I also figured that in future, when I'm working on a project, it's best that I farm out things that might take me longer to learn, like lighting and cinematics and sound design, in order to get a project completed within a shorter period of time. But overall, I'm quite happy with the project that I completed and the results that I have. And I have to say, I have given at least one of my playtesters a nightmare or two. Well, what's next? I've shown existence to a few very talented individuals, all with specialized skills that are beyond my current level. We're going to work on a prototype that we can put forward in a crowdfunding platform using the plan that I have created as part of the CircuitStream Capstone project. Now, in other parts of my life, on a personal note, I'm going to take, of course, the information that I have gained and the skills that I have learned and apply them to my freelance work. I'm currently working with a company in Germany and one in France, and they will be the immediate beneficiaries of the knowledge that I've gained. But I also have a passion project that I want to put forward. And that passion project is in honor of my son, who is autistic and has a hard time communicating with others and making friends. So this is an edutainment program, and it's called Verity Heights School Rules. It's meant to provide a place where people who are able to communicate verbally can practice those social communication skills and make mistakes without any fear of bullying or getting things wrong. Once again, thank you for joining me today, and I'm terribly sorry that I couldn't be with you in person. Thank you to CircuitStream for allowing me to pre-record. I'd also like to give a huge shout out and thanks to my instructor, Zane, who's been more than an instructor. He's been a fantastic mentor throughout this entire process, very patient and kind and knowledgeable, and I don't think I could have got through this course without him. So thank you very much, Zane. My name, once again, is Leslie Donaldson. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the internet as @writer Leslie Donaldson or by email at lesliedonaldson@bell.net.
All right. Please feel free to leave any questions and or feedback for Leslie in the questions tab, and she'll be able to access it when she plays the, the recording. Now, moving on, I will invite our last group to the stage, Vincent James and Jason Ox of Adventures, Inc.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Ooh.
Hello, hello. All right, feel free to share your screen, and I will.
Yep. Yeah, I'll take it from here. Thank you, One Eye. So we're doing things a little differently here. I think we had some writing that kind of mentioned us going sooner. Did not realize we'd actually be going last, but I think we'll manage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, you good?
Yes, everything. Alrighty. So let us get it started, everybody. Let's all just clap our hands, shake off the dust. It's the last presentation. We're good to go. My name is Jason Ox. I used to perform and produce comedy shows until the pandemic told comedians that we were the least essential people in society, and then I had to stay inside for 2 years. But I took that time to get really into games and game design.
And my name is Vincent James. Before this, I was a design lead at a digital agency, but fighting to communicate my team's design intentions to clients day in and out over 4 years really took its toll. So since then, I've left to pursue a career in game design. Jason and I recently graduated from CircuitStream's game design program, and we wanted to share a thin little vertical slice prototype of our game with you today.
Of course, we couldn't have achieved everything up to this point without the contributions of our fellow colleagues, Eva Clement, Leslie Donaldson, who you just saw in that video, who helped us along the way. As well, we also want to do a nice shout out to our instructor, Zane, who taught us much of what we know. So if this pitch sucks, it's on him. Without further ado, we're excited to show you our game, Adventures Incorporated, hereby shortened to Adventures, Inc.
So Adventures, Inc. is a casual puzzle adventure game where you run a cutthroat talent agency connecting would-be heroes to grand adventures. We've got Papers, Please and Little Guardsman-inspired interactions and puzzles to solve, an eclectic cast of aspiring heroes who you'll be able to influence and shape with the choices you make throughout the game. And we're offering a crash course in Goblin business ethics. There's no morality to answer to in the fantasy kingdom of Woodley Hollow, so get your fame and fortunes at any cost.
Let me ask you something. What's better than an epic fable where heroes overcome adversity against all odds, triumphing over evil? Nothing, you say? Wrong, you silly idiot. There is one thing that's much better than that, and that is, of course, profit. In Adventures, Inc., profit is the name of the game. Here's how it works in the kingdom of Woodley Hollow. Anytime there is a damsel in distress or prince in peril, the rights to rescue them are purchased by the Bardic Guild of Entertainment. Those lyricists and lobbyists then turn to adventuring agencies like ours to find the right would-be heroes to take on those quests. As a high-end agent for the most prestigious adventuring agency in the kingdom, Ethel Madrianalopoulos was in charge of recruiting the next wave of talent and molding them into full-blown heroes. Or at least she used to be. After one of her high-profile heroes was caught grooming a minor, her agency quickly hid the hero in a rehabilitation spa and promptly scapegoated Ethel, throwing her to the very same scandal-clad pendling bards that she so often sold stories to, Wow, a lot of alliteration. Now, fueled by her spiteful nature and goblin rage, you join Ethel as she embarks on a quest of her own, a quest to start her new adventuring agency and run her former employers out of Woodley Hollow. Now, starting from scratch is tough, but with the help of her indentured assistant, Jonathan, Ethel is ready to start to claw her way back to the top.
Throughout the game, you'll take on the roles of both Ethel and Jonathan in your personal quest to grow your agency. We'll let our short trailer show what you can expect from Adventures Inc.
Welcome to Woodley Hollow, a kingdom filled with magic, adventure, and most importantly, profit. Running an adventuring agency means you need to be ruthless and cunning. Not everyone can cut it, you know. I used to be an agent until I took an arrow to the knee, and now look at me. I'm dead.
Alrighty, Ms. Ethel. We've got 6 up-and-coming adventurers waiting downstairs who are ready for you to interview them. Music is the real answer now.
Do I look like a magic man of schooling?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Here we have the hero selection. Just drag and drop which candidate you want for which job. It looks like the Colosseum is open, so I can fight to the death to earn coin.
Hear ye, listen to me. Those adventurers return now, and here are their stories. Who will you sign to your agency, Miss Ethel? Who will become a hero of legend?
Okay, so let's break down a little bit of what you saw in that video. One key element of Adventures Inc. is the interview. You'll be able to meet and interrogate a wide cast of quirky characters from the Kingdom of Woodley Hollow to see who's the best fit.
Oops, sorry, I missed a slide, my bad. You'll also need to consider each adventurer's criteria and what specific roles need to be filled. Then interview candidates, all of whom may have distinct personality, backstory, and potential qualifications for the job. But be warned, these characters might be willing to say or do anything to get this role of a lifetime. Make sure to scrutinize the resumes, feats, and how they portray themselves before you move on. Once all the interviews are done, it's time to make your choice. Assign 3 heroes to roles on the adventure and send them on their way. There aren't really any wrong choices here. These heroes are all capable in their own ways. They honestly should survive the journeys ahead.
While your heroes are away, open the map and send your assistant Jonathan out on errands across Woodley Hollow to earn money on the side and advance the agency's renown. 3 types of mini-games are played during this time. You can earn coin through odd jobs, you can handle any PR disasters with a narrative-driven gameplay, and you can cut some back alley deals with a minor economy system.
Upon their return, a hero's time away is recounted to you by the ever-faithful scribe Ian Lark. Each hero has a unique conclusion depending on their assigned roles in an adventure. Once all the outcomes have been presented, you can sign one of the 3 heroes permanently onto your agency's adventuring roster. From here, it's your job to foster this hero's rise and fall in Woodley Hollow by managing their ego and sending them out on new adventures.
So you'll interview a handful of potential heroes, scrutinize their answers, cast 3 of those heroes into given roles, and then send them on their way. And then in your downtime, you earn coin and manage your agent's roster to get ahead. Finally, once the heroes are back, expand your agency by recruiting a survival hero to your roster. So the elements that I just described are what make up the core gameplay loop of a single year in Adventures Inc. Grow your agency's renown and roster of heroes by completing increasingly outlandish adventures each year. In time, Ethel will claw her way back to the top.
So I'd like to take the opportunity now to just talk a little bit about how we got here. So over the last 4 years, there's been a growing demand for cozy games with simple mechanics, intriguing characters, and rich narratives driven by player choice. This was a genre of games that Jason and I had already enjoyed playing. I do believe this was an ideal vehicle for our more left-of-field ideas. I mean, look, honestly, we made a prototype for essentially Interview Simulator, the game, and hopefully it's not as boring as that sounds, but we did have faith in our early concepts, and our market research later on helped really to quantify that for us, which I'll touch on briefly here as well. Okay, so I'm gonna shotgun through some of this. So actually mentioning shotguns, we started with a shotgun approach to our research, grabbing relevant games from the top 200 games across every genre and subgenre that we felt Adventures Inc. dipped into. So that was adventure games, puzzle games, casual games, choices matters games, comedy games, conversation, creature collector, and simulation games. From this list of hundreds, I started a database filtering relevant tags that these games shared. These tags were used to essentially locate any missed outliers amidst the sea of releases on Steam, and to remove games that were simply not comparable to the smaller ambitions and scope of our game. Like, the top 20 games of every genre was unrealistic to use as a data point. We weren't about to make a choices matter style game that could compete with something like Baldur's Gate or The Witcher 3, for instance. With things dialed in a lot more, we finally had 25 games that we could start building usable data sets around. My goal here was to compile a list of aspirational competitors, which I could only do by further removing titles that were completely out of band, like Papers, Please, which I mentioned earlier. This is a game that we were heavily inspired by, but also a game released over a decade ago, and one that has made an estimated $10 million in that time, and sparked an entire genre of its own. So in the end, the final list of titles that we deemed as worthwhile aspirational competitors to conduct further analysis on were Death and Taxes, Beacon Pines, Storyteller, and Little Guardsman. Our takeaway from all this, there is absolutely a market for our game. More importantly, though, to us as designers than knowing we're executing on good foundations was learning that these 5 areas which Adventures Inc. shares with those other titles just mentioned received the most scrutiny from fans and reviewers alike. The research we conducted told us that we had to deliver on true casual gameplay, consequential choices in character development, multiple narratives that encourage revisiting, an art style reminiscent of Saturday morning cartoons, and some level of creature collecting and managing. You can kind of think like somewhat akin to Pokemon. This was a roundabout way, though, of saying that if any of this resonates with you,
well, we have a vertical slice prototype in hand, but we could absolutely use more hands on this adventure of ours. We are looking for a publishing partner to expand our team of 2 to continue the development of Adventures Inc.
Okay, so that was a lot. But from both of us here at Adventures Inc., thank you so much for listening to us ramble away about our fantasy toxic work condition simulator.
And please reach out to either one of us through the links that have been provided in the chat, or just by putting our name into the search bar of LinkedIn. That works too. If you got any questions, we got answers, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. And feel free to tackle a couple of questions in the questions tab.
Jason, you wanna?
Hold on, I'm reading them.
Yeah. Oh, I can answer this one about the art. So we mentioned earlier, Eva Clement. She was another game designer in our program, and she had so much. She was so skillful that she was able to complete her own capstone and also offer to help us with the art. So she actually took a lot of the character designs on herself. Jason and I also dealt with some of those. I think I specifically dealt with one character, while Eva and Jason tackled most of the art for the others. And then the 3D assets and such were done by myself as well. But there's not a lot of that environment kind of modeling involved here.
All right. One last, you can tackle one last question.
Another art question, Jason. Maybe you want to tackle the other one.
What platforms and processes did you use to create the illustrated characters in the world environment? Was it Illustrator, Photoshop, or any of the other vector platforms? So when Eva left, or just wasn't able to continue with the project, I essentially had to teach myself digital art because I'd never done it before. So I just went and bought a tablet and then learned how to do it. And all of that was done through the Clip Studio art is where I did all. And I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos, figured out how to do it. And what you saw is what it was. Not too bad, as they say.
I think on my end, everything else was just Procreate or Maya for 3D stuff. Sorry, go on.
All right, no worries. So yeah, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And feel free to tackle any other questions in the question tab there. All right. So congratulations to everybody that presented today. And I know how hard you've all worked, and you should be so proud of yourselves. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and helping you leverage your strengths. And I'm looking forward to continue helping you reach your career goals. Now for our industry partners, please partner up with us by joining our global network of industry partners. Our partner opportunities include training to upskill your team and future-proof them through our course offerings. You can also join us as a hiring partner completely free of charge. You can offer internships and apprenticeship opportunities, or get on board as a capstone project advisor. If you would like to learn more about these programs, please send an email to me at wanai@circuitstream.com. And once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for the industry partners that have stayed on up until the very end. Really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. All right, thank you so much, everybody.